We do have various records. Ralph Lane talks all throughout that military colony about food becoming a bit of a problem. And there are a few scraps. There was another incident which didn't go down too well, which was that, and I've got the note here. On the 16th of July, so 16th of July, 1585. It says, the 16th, we returned thence, and one of our boats with the admiral was sent to this Native American village to demand the return of a silver cup, which one of the savages had stolen from us. So, they assumed it had been stolen. And then they go on about, and not receiving it according to his promise, we burned and spoiled their corn and town, and all the people being fled, or they actually shot some of them. We know that there was
over a cup,
over this silver cup, which they couldn't prove had been stolen anyway. Yeah,
nice people.
So yeah, it's British arrogance,
Yeah. Well, at least you can call it like you see it.
Yeah, but
so they're killing some of the They thought that was going to go over well.
At the time, probably they did, but no, it didn't. Evidently. But anyway, the point is that it was getting harder and harder for them to survive. And as early 1586 comes along, so they've overwintered on the Outer Banks.
Has Grenville gone back yet?
Grenville's gone back. Okay. He's left the colony there, stays for a month to make sure they're set up, and then he goes back. When he goes back, he's already aware that he needs to bring more supplies.
Okay.
Because as a military man, he's looked at the place and he said, it's a sandbank. It's not the land of milk and honey that Barlow and Armada said it was. And of course, he's going to go and tell Sir Walter Raleigh it's a sandbank,
But do they also, I mean, did he have a concept of not how much land, but that there was at least significant land west of where they were?
No, they didn't know. Not until really, I think it was actually probably 150 years later that they realized, because one of the things they thought was that it would be a shortcut to the Spice Islands in the East Indies. They really weren't aware of how wide America was. They thought maybe, a couple of days sort of travel over land and we might get to the Pacific Ocean. Well, it took them a little bit longer than a couple of days, but they didn't know that at the time. This colony was primarily about, if Spain can get gold out of Mexico and South America, there must be gold in America. There was no Wall Street back then, unfortunately, but that was one of the main things. It was seen as a source of income for the fledgling British Empire at the time. That was the whole kind of desire to settle here in America. What actually happened eventually was that Sir Francis Drake, who had just sacked or burnt the Spanish fort at St. Augustine, sails up the coast and thinks, I'll pop in on the military colony and see how they're doing. So he kind of calls by and tries to offer them a ship and a little bit of help. But what happens in the end, and it's a little bit confused, there seems to have been some storm, there might have been a hurricane going on or whatever. And in the end, he says to the leader of the military colony, Ralph Lane, do you guys want to lift home? And so having kind of starved and annoyed the Indians and finding it getting a bit too much to be there, Ralph Lane said, yeah. So him and all the entire military colony get on Sir Francis Drake's ships and sail for England and essentially abandon Roanoke.
So this is 1586?
This is this is about May time, 1586.
So no one's there now?
No one's there now.
Plot thickens.
The plot thickens, okay. So a couple of things I want to talk about this colony. We've mentioned the Fort Raleigh thing. I'm here to tell you now that the National Park Service Fort Raleigh, that 300,000 visitors a year see, okay, on Roanoke Island, is not the Fort Raleigh that Ralph Lane built.
Okay.
What that is, nobody really knows. It's a sconce. It's a very small banked enclosure. And it's actually a reconstruction of something that an archaeologist called J.C. Harrington discovered in 1955. But is it anything to do with the Lost Colony? I doubt it, because one of the kind of strange things about it is that his reconstruction was built on top of some of his own archaeology, which he said was from that period. So how could the fort be from the same period as the other archaeology? Because you would essentially be building over something that was still being used at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. Do you see where I'm going with that? I mean, so, and besides that, it's rather small for 104 military men. It just would never have worked. It's completely the wrong style. It's also in the wrong location. Because when you're building a military fort, first thing, it was visible from the ocean side, which means if the Spanish came in, they would see it, which is not a good move because you're still a little bit flaky with the Spanish. It's not on the highest ground, which it should have been. Most forts and castles, you look in England at a castle, they're all on top of a hill. No fresh water source nearby, and no safe anchorage or deep anchorage for a ship. So strategically, what is Fort Raleigh today is in entirely the wrong place.
So why do they still insist on showing this?
Politics, perhaps.
What? For what? No one cares. They're not fighting over that for the election. You know what I
mean? But I mean, you've got 300,000 people who might think that they've been duped into looking at something which isn't really Fort Raleigh. I don't know what that structure really was. I don't know what J.C. Harrington was seeing. I've read his notes from that period, his report, and I don't know what he's seeing. And a lot of archaeologists privately will say to you, but not publicly, yeah, it's not the fort. It couldn't be. You wouldn't get 104 men into Fort Raleigh, which is this peculiar little sconce.
Have you ever ambushed one of the guided tours there? Like, this is all a lie. Everyone leave, disperse.
Well, actually, joking aside, it very nearly. I try and be diplomatic because they're selling my book there. So guys, I got to be nice about this. But no, actually, it's kind
Page 72.
It's kind of funny because I had some British friends come over in September. And I took them there to see it because they wanted to see this connection with Bideford. So I took them there and I'm talking to them and I'm saying, this is not Fort Raleigh and this is why it's not Fort Raleigh. And I give them the story that I've just given you guys. And behind me is the National Park Service ranger talking to about 30 people about the fort. And I can hear them in the background. And I'm talking quietly about this. And then before I know it, there's several people have wandered away from the National Park Service and they're coming and they're stood within earshot of what I'm talking about. And so I kind of stopped thinking, oh, wait, maybe we're in the way of them. And they were like, no, carry on. It's really interesting what you've got to say. So, yeah, there's probably several people that now know it's in America that now know it's not Fort Raleigh, other than the archaeologists.
Well, now there's a few more listening to this. Did they have that on the History Channel thing? Did they talk about that? I don't remember that.
No, they don't. I mean,
did they ask you about it though on camera and then not put it in?
They did, but it's not going to. Say privately, a lot of archaeologists probably won't go on record as saying it's not that. And once upon a time, it was the Fort Raleigh. Now it's kind of labelled as a recreation of what it might have been, but it's not. They would have built a wooden palisade. The material that they would have built their fort out, a defendable fort, a fort you could defend, right? You'd build it out of the trees. You'd have built a wooden palisade. Think your Wild West soldiers, what did they build their forts out of? Trees.
Yeah.
It's defendable. It's defensible. So
how much confrontation or even cancellation of your thoughts have you run into among the, I won't even say archaeology community, the historian community of this time period?
Okay, I think amongst the archaeologists I know, I've not really met too much resistance because I think privately they also realise it's not Fort Raleigh. But again, there's a bit of politics at play. So, they don't publicly come out with it because
Such a problem.
it would be very easy to. I mean, come on, guys. In the land of conspiracy theories, you've only got to say something that doesn't conform, and everyone thinks you're crazy.
That's right.
So, but here's my punchline for you. We found where that fort probably was.
Okay.
A few of us found where that fort probably was. We found the right kind of outline. We found the right kind of anomalies. We put a ground-penetrating radar over what looked like the ditch that would have been associated with it. We found an anomaly at 3 to 4 feet deep, and the governing body that control permits for digging archaeology on National Park Service land would not give us the permit to dig it and find out.
Did they give you a reason?
Oh, they said, oh, no, we need a full report and blah, blah, blah. And we said, well, we can't give you a full report until we investigate the anomaly. It's that chicken and egg thing. It's just going round in circles, which came first, So we can't give them the report because we need to investigate the anomaly. But they won't let us investigate the anomaly because they say we need the full report.
Did you discuss this publicly?
I haven't gone public with it because...
Well, here we go.
Yeah, I know, right, guys? It's a frustration. Part of me, again, if I was a conspiracy theorist, and I really am not, but I would kind of almost feel that the National Park Service probably realised there's something there that needs investigating. But again, politically, it would be an awful lot of egg on their face if for the last 70 years they've been showing people the wrong fort.
Yeah, I don't... The lane you're looking at here with just this general idea of the Lost Colony of 1587, I don't, it doesn't strike me as conspiracy. It's more just like fact of, oh, this town in England may have been here first and set up a few people, and we're going to get to obviously what could have happened here. But it's very, like, people fight over things, for example, the pyramids, because there's so many potential possibilities there that even get to the crazy.
Yeah.
Now, I know History Channel tried to put some words in your mouth there with some things,
Mm-hmm.
but escaping some of that, it's just a really interesting historical story. I don't see why things like that are, I mean, I guess I can guess why they are, but I think it's very stupid that things like that could be treated by mainstream, people as political points off for thinking differently, but it's sad to me that you have to use phrases like, well, I bet privately they think that this is what happened, but they're not going to say that publicly.
It is that public sort of thing. I mean, on one last point on this whole thing about this fort, right? It's a wooden palisade, okay? Now, if it was the mound that you see there today as Fort Raleigh, okay, because all it is a grassy mound, sort of ring, just an outline of a mound. Okay. Then in 1587, and I know we're jumping forward, but this is the last note on the Fort Raleigh thing. In 1587, when John White comes back, now bearing in mind he was there in 1585 with a military colony, he produced that map that you've just shown, the Virginia Pars map. When he comes back in 1587 with the civilian colony, the first thing he's doing is looking to find Fort Raleigh. Because he knew it was there in 1585, that was the military, and that would be a safe place to stick the civilians and let them live there while they're building their houses and just checking everything over. And he's expecting, of course, that the military colony might be there. These are his actual words. As he's wandering around the island, he goes up to where he knew the fort was, okay, and he says, "We found the fort raised down."
Raised down?
Raised down. Raised as in, if you think R-A or Z, as you guys say, E-D, raised. If something is raised, what is it? It's burnt to the ground. It's leveled. It's gone. Now, if it was a grass bank, would it be raised down? Or would it be raised down if it was a wooden palisade? And
I'd say the palisade.
It's a palisade that's been burnt to the ground by the Native American Indians, ultimately.
And by the way, I don't know if I asked you on camera to define palisade for people out there. I know what it is because I had listened.
Palisade is a wooden fort. So if I say to people, think your kind of Wild West cavalry forts, etc., of your westerns, that's essentially a palisade. It's a wooden fort. It would have been defensible. You would have been able to protect yourselves being in that fort. Essentially a wooden castle, if you want to call it that.
Okay. So what document was that again where it said that?
Well, that's actually from the Richard Hakluyt books. That's actually transcribed word for word from the Hakluyt Principal Navigations books that were written in 1589 and 1600. That's verbatim from those books.
Okay.
He finds the fort razed down.
So bottom line, there's significant evidence to point out that Fort Raleigh was really somewhere else, and you think you may have found where that is, but you can't say because you weren't allowed to investigate it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we had left off 1586.
Right. We
Sir
do need
Francis,
to go there.
what's his last name again?
So Sir Francis Drake,
Drake
has
comes up,
relieved the colony in, he's turned up and he's taken the colony, back to England. Now, meanwhile, of course, you have to understand that Grenville is on his way back to England, thinking, because you're only going to get there once a year, because you sail in the spring when the weather's good and you come back before the storms of the autumn. Okay. So Grenville sails back at the end of August 1585. He's left the military colony there. He's gone home. I need to get them more supplies. Well, of course, he's not going to get back to England until October time. So it's the middle of winter. He's going to sail again in the spring of 1586 and come back with supplies for that military colony.
How much supply? How big a boat would he be taking that time? What specific types of supplies and how much weight could he bring over?
These ships actually of the day were pretty extraordinary things. They were incredibly mobile. They sat very high in the water, but they would typically be 100, 200 tons in weight. Just wooden sailing ships, but you could hold quite a bit in those holds. The three ships that brought over the Lost Colony, what became the Lost Colony, 3 crews, 120 men, women, and children
total.
Some livestock, and some their goods and stuff that they would have brought with them, food and all the rest of it.
And how long would a journey like that take?
Varies slightly, but the average is about 54 days. So you're talking, what are we talking here, 7 to 8 weeks?
Wow.
Yeah.
And do we have records of people dying on the trip over, or?
We have one record of one of the civilians being killed by the Native American Indians on the Lost Colony in 1587.
Okay, so
But in terms of dying on the way, it's possible, but we don't actually have a record of the civilians dying on the way over. We have 2 names missing in the list, which doesn't make sense that they may well have died and it's not been recorded. And we do know that obviously the sailing was pretty dangerous, and we know from some of the voyages that some of the sailors were killed or they died of sickness, essentially, drinking poor, bad water, etc., etc. I would like actually at this point, before we get into 1586, to just talk about Grenville's return voyage to England, 1585, because it's the one part of the story that has just been completely missed for its significance. Not so much significance for the Lost Colony, but significance actually for the town of Bideford and for England and what actually took place. On his way back, he gets to Bermuda, and, we're at the time now where if there's a Spanish ship, you would fight with the Spanish ship and try and take the Spanish ship, because it's a prize and it's paid for your trip. Okay, because there's no income tax being used to fund the trips. You're funding the trips yourself.
Oh, even if you're getting a charter from the Queen, you're self-funding. She couldn't throw a couple bones from the throne.
Well, she did sort of provide a couple of ships, which was her cut, of course. But no, there wasn't limited supply of money. It was basically your money because it was your investment. Because if there was gold and you bought all that gold back, it was basically you'd give the Queen her cut and the rest was yours.
Okay.
So fascinating. I'm sure you're aware of Pirates of the Caribbean. You didn't know we were going to get in. You didn't know we were going to get into Hollywood here, did you? I'm going to read you something. What happened with Grenville? He gets to Bermuda and there's a Spanish ship there. It turns out it's a treasure ship. It's the Santa Maria di San Vincenzi.
Jack Sparrow running it?
Gets better. Gets
I don't
better.
like that look.
Okay, gets better. It gets even better. We know what happened because there's this really incredibly unfortunate Spanish guy called Enrique Lopez. He's in the Caribbean doing business or something with, as a Spaniard, and he thumbs a lift back on, to get back to Spain. And the ship he thumbs a lift on, basically, is the Santa Maria de San Vincenzi that gets taken or captured by Grenville at Bermuda, off the coast of Bermuda. With me so far? So we have an eyewitness account. Because this Spaniard gets back to Spain and has to explain what happened to the treasure ship.
Lo siento. It's gone.
Lo siento, yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely a bit of Banos here, I can tell you. So I'm going to read a little, if I may, a little bit of a fascination, Pirates of the Caribbean style here. You might like this, or you can cut it out, of course, guys.
No, we'll keep it. Let's go.
So this is what he wrote. Whereupon the ship, meaning Grenville's ship, opened fire and bore down on us, firing her guns with the intention of disabling our sails or disabling the ship. And it so badly cut up their rigging that we were disabled, meaning that, he shot out the rigging. So you've seen all this on the films, guys.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
They say that as the English general, now he's talking about Richard Grenville here, the English general, and his men boarded, he, Richard Grenville, ordered the master and the rest on board to hand over all the gold and silver and other things they had in the vessel, promising that he would not do them any bodily harm if they did so. The passengers gave up the keys to their boxes, and he unlocked some and broke open others and removed lots of gold and silver and pearls which were in them. He also took 200 boxes of sugar, they're about £25 a box, and 7,000 hides and 1,000 hundredweight, which is half a ton, of ginger and other merchandise, to a total value of 160,000 ducats.
Which, I mean, the value sounds insane.
So, to money value today, I'll give it to you in Americanese. What he took off that ship with today's money is $14 million.
Tough day.
Yeah, extraordinary. What there are other things about this incredible moment because.
And Bermuda had been discovered by the Spanish. Yeah. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah,
so they've been there.
Yeah, everyone knew where Bermuda was. Yeah. The crazy thing is, the pilot of the Santa Maria de San Vincenzi was Portuguese. Now, Portuguese pilots at the day were the best pilots you could get for your ship.
Why?
Because they knew the Atlantic Ocean intimately well. They were superb navigators. Okay, they were some of the first to go around the world, all that kind of thing. They actually called the Atlantic Ocean the Bay of Portugal. That was kind of an in-joke amongst the Portuguese pilots.
Oh, so okay,
yeah,
all right,
okay,
all right, got it.
So of course he's got himself a Portuguese pilot now. So he takes, captures Pedro Diaz, takes him back to England to force him to be his pilot on future journeys, and he does. So he pilots Grenville's resupply voyage in 1586. But what's crazy is he talks about being forced to work on Grenville's new house on the quay, which he's building with the money he's made from that ship. And his story alone is crazy because he goes back in 1586 as the pilot. And then in 1588, he sails again to the Lost Colony. The ships get set upon in the Bay of Biscay. He pleads with the French ship to take him off of the English. They do so and think, oh, we've got ourselves a Portuguese pilot. He then escapes from the French and finally arrives in Havana, Cuba, in the hands of the Spanish 4 years later. It's kind of like, this is straight up Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
This is what I love about this story. It's just so much more things going on that nobody knows about. So, crazy thing. Richard Grenville gets back to Bideford, and there we have that image down there is the house he built on the quayside.
Let's toss this baby up on the screen. Wait, that's in Bideford?
It was. You see the picture of the.
Yeah, that looks a lot. Let's toss that up. It's the one on the bottom left.
So I can take you through those briefly, as I say. This
Please,
is all consequence of this ship he catches off Bermuda.
That looks a lot like just rough shot quickly, like the boat houses on the Schuylkill River, right outside Philly, past the art museum. Very similar
Wow.
architecture design. All right, Alessi's pulling it up right now so people will be able to see it on
Okay,
screen.
so
So
let-
bottom left, right there. You're
Right,
saying.
so let me take you through what you've got here. First things first, top left, although it's modern and it's now apartments, we got in there and we're investigating that building. It's the remains of an ancient 13th century house, which was where the Grenvilles originally lived in Bideford. And we know this because although you can't see too clearly, the image that's at the top centre contains a coat of arms that's linked to the Grenville family.
Okay.
So I tried to save that building as a museum and what have you, but we couldn't raise the money to save it. So it's now apartments. Anyhow, Grenville's got back to Bideford with his ship with all the gold on it. And what he builds is what you see on the bottom left-hand corner there. That six-gabled building is Grenville's manor house that he built on the quayside with the Spanish slaves that he captured. Yeah.
Oh, because he made the guys he captured slaves too.
Absolutely.
Wasn't enough to take all
Because
their
they were
shit.
they were prisoners of war. I mean, that's how they were viewed. They were slaves, but it was a prisoner of war thing. I mean, the Spanish did the same thing. Any Brits they captured, they incarcerated them as galley slaves. To row ships, basically. So it was
Forever.
basically until they died or were set free. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my god.
So
God, we live in such a good era.
the problem you've now got, look at the top right, you'll see guys stood there looking very smug and just a load of demolition rubble. In 1937, they pulled down what was left of the Grenville Manor House. It's no longer there. Most astonishing, heartbreaking thing I've ever come across.
Why did they do that? That's before the war. No excuse.
Who knows? I would have started a war if I'd have been there. But yeah, so we lost that building.
Is there similar architecture still existing in Bideford? That's
no. There are, well, tell a lie. There are some fragments of things, but it's very, very is it for real? Is it not? We don't honestly know. There really is not a lot there. And the last thing was the cannons that you saw at the end there.
Yeah.
There is some debate as to whether those cannons, they're labelled as Spanish Armada cannons. But I have, the Spanish Royal Armory think that they're earlier. So were they from the Santa Maria San Vincenzi? We really don't know.
Could have been.
So
the Brits were pirates.
We were pirates. Yeah, absolutely.
God
damn. Guys, we do anything for tea.
Hilarious. Can we pull up, hit the home button, Alessi? Hit the home button and then hit that. Can we pull up images of Bideford? I just want to get an idea. Let's just look on Google what it shows us.
One of the best places in the world to go New Year's Eve.
Bideford. Really?
Yeah. Bideford. It's a single D. The one in Maine is two Ds, and that was actually also founded by someone from...
All right, hit images.
So there we go. There we go.
Okay. Hit that one.
So there you are, Bideford Quayside.
And why'd you say it was good for New Year's? Sorry.
We have a very, very big fancy dress party in Bideford on New Year's Eve. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got the crier out in front reading you off again?
Well, let me put it this way. About 20 years ago, I can't remember, I think it was the Times newspaper held a poll of the 10 best places to celebrate New Year's Eve in the world. And in the world, and we came 7th between Rio de Janeiro and Rome.
Holy shit, man! That's some
pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I'll bet your population's like a quarter or a lot less than Rio.
Absolutely. It's actually a very, very poor town. It's very deprived. About 20% of the people who live there are below the poverty line.
Looks beautiful.
Which why it frustrates me a bit because it's a beautiful part of the world. Yeah. And
it's on the west coast, southern west coast.
Down if you head down the peninsula that sticks out from England in the southwest, it's on the north coast there. What's really
we'll pull up a map on the screen so people can see it. So
there we are. There's Bideford. So if you zoom out, you'll see where it is. So there it is. Keep zooming out.
So you're on
and then you're more familiar now where you are in the map of England.
So this is what, like 5 hours from London? 4 hours?
Yeah, actually, no. You could do it in about 5 hours, I think, these days.
Okay.
What's really extraordinary to think is that after Jamestown got settled, Bideford became the principal port for all the tobacco that was being produced in Virginia, got shipped back to England, and most of it went into Bideford.
Why Bideford?
Because it was the convenient port. It was close at hand.
But hold on a second. Can you zoom back in on that, Alessi, on where Bideford is? But it's technically inland. Like, why wouldn't it zoom in more, if you don't mind? Like, why wouldn't you use Westward Hole or something? Or is that still Bideford there?
No, Westward Ho is it's just a sandy beach. You need a deep water port. The river level at Bideford has the second highest tide after the Bay of Fundy.
But what about the ocean? Can it beat the ocean?
It's silted up quite a bit now from what it was. It used to be wider and deeper, that port.
Yeah, because I always wonder about this. Like, for example, why in America, I really should look this stuff up, but like a major port we had on the South Jersey side is Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. That makes sense because it's a big city, right? Like, it's a huge city, as opposed to making the port like Cape May, because it's much smaller. Yeah. But this seems like it's not like that big a place, and I guess the other places are just like very rural and there's not much going on there.
Yeah, I mean, the population today is 15,000. The population in the time of the Lost Colony would have probably been around 3,000.
Yeah, see, that's not that much. Like,
the most extraordinary thing, though, that so much tobacco was going back into Bideford, and the ships weren't going over empty. They were taking all the mercantile stuff that the colonists in America, in Jamestown and so on, needed, that they couldn't get there. They were taking over linen and all sorts of things and what have you. So perversely, Bideford played a major, major part, not only in trying to settle this first colony, the Lost Colony, but at a later date with the tobacco trade, we played a major part in actually securing America as a nation by bringing it all the merchandise that it actually needed for the colonists to be able to survive and settle.
And we're at this point, like, because we're talking about this initial potential colony, and they didn't even know, they couldn't even grow proper crops. The guys wanted to leave. Did they have any idea okay, maybe not 1585, but by 1590 or something, was there an idea back in England that, whoa, there's a huge tobacco and even like cotton opportunity in America, or was it still a guess?
Right. They were aware of tobacco because they had just been sort of discovered pretty much then. They found the Spanish were using it, and of course the Native American Indians were smoking tobacco, a very strong kind of tobacco, but it was noted. But it wasn't really until, after Jamestown was firmly established and they found that the tobacco grew much better in and around Chesapeake Bay that it really became a major, major export for the colony.
Outside of smoking, was there any good use for tobacco?
No.
I was going to say, that's like...
It was a fashion.
Okay.
It was literally a fashion. And when it was first brought back to England, it was a very expensive fashion. If you saw some of the clay pipes, the very early clay pipes from when tobacco first came back to England, they were about 3 inches long, and the bowl that you put your tobacco in would barely hold not much more than a thumbnail, because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
And then as it became more and more, got imported and more available, the bowls got bigger, the pipes got bigger. And it got cheaper.
Was there anywhere in the Eastern world where they were previously growing that?
Not that I'm aware of, although I must admit it's not something I would know.
Not in the Middle East or anything?
It's not something I would know, to be honest with you. I don't think so. I think there's various species of tobacco leaf, but the tobacco leaf that was cultivated here was kind of seen as the major player. Excuse me. The sad thing about Bideford was that when we talk about the price of tea and you guys throwing it in the harbour, as we did a minute ago.
That's right.
It wasn't really England that suffered from that loss. It was Bideford, because you stopped exporting all your tobacco back to Bideford, and literally overnight Bideford collapsed as a port.
Sorry, pal.
So you owe us, guys. You owe us big,
There were only 3,000 of you. It's a write-off cost. I'm sorry.
Guys,
it just is,
guys.
It's a big country.
We had this guy called Strachan Carnegie, who was mayor of Bideford in 1910, and
what a name!
His nephew was Andrew Carnegie.
But
Andrew Carnegie gave Bideford its library.
Wasn't he Scottish though?
Yeah, originally, and then he went to America and then got involved in something called
But
steel, didn't
Bideford's
he?
not in Scotland.
No, but
had
his
family
uncle
there?
was mayor of Bideford, and he persuaded Andrew Carnegie to give us a new library. Now,
This is crazy. Until I talked to you, I didn't even know what Bideford was. Never heard of it in my life.
crazy little town because you go there,
Yes.
it's very sleepy backwater, it's kind of twee, it's kind of quaint, it's got some really lovely little places there, but it's kind of like, oh, guys. So I digress. That's the story of Bideford.
No, it's great. It's good digression.
But it's kind of like trying to give people a feel for where it all started, what really was kicking off with the Lost Colony. It was all focused around Bideford, really. That's really where most of it actually, the story took place. And we have further references as we go forward. So 1586, we're now, Grenville is now back in England. He knows he needs to resupply the colony. So on the 16th of April, he sets sail with some supplies and more people, more military people. And then something crazy happens. Right at the entrance to the estuary where Bideford sits, there's a very large sandbar, still there today. It still causes problems for ships. And the town clerk of the neighbouring town of Barnstable quotes, and I got this quote from the 16th of April, Sir Richard Grenville sailed over the bar with his flyboat, this is his ship, and frigate, but for want of sufficient water on the bar, being near upon Neap, he left his ship, meaning the ship got stranded on the sandbar. And
The whole thing.
His ship got stranded on the sandbar because he was laden down, I guess, and miscalculated the sandbar.
They couldn't just wait for the tide to come in?
Well, that's what he had to do, but he waited nearly 2 weeks. So here's the crazy thing. This is really what if only kind of thing. Drake has taken the military colony off. Grenville is on his way back, but gets stranded on the sandbar, and he's stuck there 2 weeks. Okay. When Grenville gets back to Roanoke, he arrives at Roanoke 2 weeks after Drake left. So what we're saying here, if he hadn't have got stuck on the sandbar, he might well have arrived when Drake was there or when the military colony was still on the island. Because Drake left and then Grenville arrived 2 weeks later. But Grenville was stranded in Bideford on the bar for 2 weeks. If he'd have sailed when he originally planned and hadn't landed, got stuck on the sandbar, he would have probably been there in time.
To stop them from getting on with Drake.
Yeah, and he would have had supplies and then they would have stayed.
Okay, but they didn't.
They didn't because he didn't arrive. He wasn't there. He arrived 2 weeks after Drake left with the military colony.
And no one's left, and he doesn't know that Drake got them.
He doesn't know. Isn't that a crazy story?
It's crazy, but now I'm trying to put it all together again. He arrives, though, with the 140 people or so?
No. He's arrived with a supply.
That's
more
it.
Supplies for the military colony.
That's it.
Yeah. Really, really interesting point here that two things occur. Grenville meets, obviously, with Manteo and the Native American Indians and finds out that Drake has just left with his colony.
Because they came back. So they brought the Manteo, is that how you say it?
No, Manteo and Wanchese came back to England with Amadis and Barlow in 1584, returned in 1585 with Grenville. They are now back staying there in the Outer Banks. And of course, because Manio speaks perfect English by now, he's telling Grenville, this guy called Francis Drake came along and took them all away 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so they know that happened.
So they know that happened. He then talks about they found an Englishman and an Indian who had been hanged. And they found three natives who tried to have a fight with Grenville. These weren't the friendly natives. These were some of the mainland natives that were kind of,
Are they still Croatoan?
Probably. It looks like there were different factions at some point. Anyway, my point is that he captures one of them. He captures one of these Native American Indians. So we've now got a third Native American Indian that's in the possession of the English. Right?
And this is now in 1587.
1586.
86, when Grenville has now returned and they're gone.
Right. So he's back on Roanoke Island. He finds out from Manteo that Drake has picked them all up. But while he's there, there's a skirmish with some more Native Americans, okay, from the mainland. It's a different faction, a different tribe. And they capture one of these Native Americans from this tribe. The other thing he does is he decides to leave 15 men with enough supplies for a year to hold America while he goes back
to hold
to hold the whole country. So there you go. We trust the entire United States of America to 15 guys.
I thought you guys were bright. You know, I was giving you too much credit.
Yeah. Bright or brave? I mean, or just I prefer the term ambitious. I mean, come on, guys. You know, the British Isles are as a land area are the same land area as the state of Virginia and North Carolina combined, and yet we went on to rule a third of the world.
Fair enough.
You can't make up stuff like that, you know.
You did lose it, but still.
Well, we know how we ruled the world. We just turned up with a flag. No one else had a flag. We just stuck a flag in India and like, oh God, they got a flag. They must own us.
That is it.
That's how we did it.
Crazy.
So anyway, so he's left 15 men, and of course he's come back with one Native American from his 1586.
Kicking and screaming. This guy he captured.
Yep. So guess what? That Native American becomes anglicised, just like Wanchese and Manio. We don't know his name, but we do know he was christened in St Mary's Parish Church in Bideford.
All right, let's pull this up. How did you get that record right there?
It's in our parish records in Bideford. It's actually...
What's his name listed as?
Raleigh. I'll show you. I'll walk you through this when we've got it up there.
His name's Raleigh.
Raleigh. Yeah, he's named after Sir Walter Raleigh.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
There we go.
I had it off. Hold on. I'll go back. Hit this. Okay, so this is the document right here.
Right. So this is his Native American that Grenville's brought back in 1586, and you'll see in 1588. You'll see Raleigh written there. And the entry says, Raleigh, a Winganditoan. I can tell you about the Winganditoan thing in a minute. Richard, the son of Baptist Hooker, and Catherine, the daughter of William Berry, all were christened this 27th day of March. So this is the first American to be basically christened in England. But in 1589, on the 2nd of April, he dies.
Quick.
So that Native American Indian is buried in our parish church in Bideford.
How old was he when he got Christian?
We don't know. Now, there is a problem because we don't know where he's buried in the church.
Can't we just exhume it?
We don't know where he is.
But it's like a church. It's not like a country.
You could dig up the whole churchyard if you want.
Yeah, can't we do that?
Well, you could, but, you know, when the plague hit and all that in the 1660s, there's probably a lot of plague burials in the churchyard. I mean, you guys are welcome to do it. I mean, I'll stand back and watch, you know. But...
All right, really dumb question. That's still contagious 500 years later?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That never goes away?
If they find a plague victims in England, you know, they're suited and booted and like they're dealing with radiation.
Really?
Oh, yeah, very serious.
So that bacteria, wow.
Yeah, that bacteria will thrive. It will still live.
So maybe he died of plague?
Well, we think more likely influenza because very sadly, it also killed Grenville's youngest daughter, Rebecca. You know, she's in the records. But I thought you'd be interested in that because this is what happened to the Native American Indian that Grenville brings back in 1586. He's christened in St Mary's Church, which is still standing, thankfully. And he dies, and he's buried in that churchyard somewhere, but we don't know where.
I'm just impressed you guys can read this shit. I have no idea what that says. I have horrible handwriting. Let's just make that clear. This makes me feel good.
We're just making it up, really, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I could. That's what I'm saying. Maybe this guy just like invented a PowerPoint and brought it up to Jersey. I don't know.
So, what I wanted to point out here, by the way, you see it says Raleigh, a Winganditoan. Okay,
Yes.
and you'll notice the
Yes.
two entries say Raleigh spelt one way and then Raleigh spelt another way on his death. So you see the two different spellings. Well, this is because at this time you wrote down how something sounded. So you wrote phonetically. So
but they didn't
that's
the first
why
time.
the spellings can vary, because it's how someone interprets what the word actually is
So
as
if-
to how it's written.
So someone with a London version of the accent and someone with a Scottish version of the accent could say the same word and it sounds a little different, so they just write what they hear.
Absolutely right. It would be completely different.
Okay.
So Wingandatoan, I have to tell you the Wingandatoan. There's a little bit of light relief here. Thomas Harriot was part of the 1585 voyage. Okay, now he was a mathematician, he was kind of a science man, a philosopher, all sorts of things. And part of his job was to translate the Croatoan language, try and find, work out how to speak Croatoan back to them and also translate their language. And one of the very first times that they speak with the Croatoans, they asked the Croatoans, what's the name of this place, Roanoke Island? And the reply is Winganditoa. But Thomas Harriot later discovers, well, no, the island is called Roanoke, and Winganditoa means you've got nice clothes.
So so they just totally messed up what they were. Got it.
Yeah, the Croatoan was looking at them saying, you've got nice clothes, guys.
Yeah. He's like, oh, that's what it's called.
Yeah, that's what it's called. So that's that. So a little bit of humour there. But the story of Raleigh the Wingandatoan, buried in Bideford's church, the first American buried on English soil.
That's crazy. And we don't know anything else about him, and we can't dig up his body because we might die.
Yeah.
Well, after COVID, we got to have some people go down there, right? Let's suit up. Let's get some rubber gloves on. Let's call it a day. I gotta look that up. I had no idea that shit still lasts. Like you can't even dig up a. I hadn't know that either. That's scary.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
guys.
where we are on the story here
Right,
is that
so back to the
Grenville's
story.
2 weeks behind.
Right. I know I'm kind of jumping around a
that's
bit,
good.
but there's all
keep it
these
straight.
consequences, which to me is why it's such a crazy story.
Yeah.
There's so much more to this story than has ever been really properly recorded. We now come to the interesting bit, the Lost Colony. We finally get there, guys. Okay.
Oh, here you go.
Thank you.
And this is where the whole argument's over.
This is where the story really starts. Okay. So first things first, one of the big things that has been said to me is that the colonists were criminals. They were thieves, because Raleigh set out to try and find 250 people to start the colony with, but he only got about 120. So they were rather naive. Thomas Harriot, the guy I've just mentioned, he writes this piece about the sort of people they want for the job, So to give you a picture of who these colonists actually were, what they were, millwrights, these, sawyers, carpenters for buildings, blacksmiths.
What's a millwright?
Millwright, someone who would build a mill so that you could make flour, you could mill flour. Tile makers, brick makers, thatchers who built, roofs, thatching roofs. Barbers who in those days were surgeons.
Barbers were surgeons?
That's what they originally were, yeah. Legend of Sweeney Todd and all that, guys,
I'm really glad that our barbers aren't surgeons. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I've seen the haircuts, guys,
Yeah, I'm still recovering from 3.5 months. That's a take I have. Salons over barbershops for me. I'm sorry. Every time I go to a barbershop, they fuck it up.
See, I don't have to worry about it, guys.
Yeah, you're good.
Tailors, cooks, bakers, brewers, butchers, shoemakers. So the list goes on and on of all these trades that Thomas Harriot thinks we need to. So it's kind of like it's like a recruitment drive. They sat there like, who do we know who is a good hunter, or who can make potash or soap, or who's a good tailor, who's a good cook, etc. All these people.
Is this in like the town newspaper they're putting this in, or?
Well, it's more likely that when Richard Grenville went back we know he went to London and sat down with Walter Raleigh to go through this list with Thomas Harriot, and then they would have sat there with the other investors and said, okay, anyone got a good cook? Anyone got someone who's a good brickmaker? Anyone who's got someone who can, sink a well and find water, etc. So
I think real fast, I think you might have touched this earlier. I just can't remember if it was off camera or on. So just quickly, what was Walter Raleigh's background again?
Okay, so Walter Raleigh was one of Queen Elizabeth's privateers, a kind of inner circle, if you like. They were kind of official, unofficial pirates. Drake, Grenville, Raleigh, they were all in that privateer group. Excuse me. So, yeah. Sorry, guys. You know, live as it happens, right?
That's all good.
But he was a favourite of Queen Elizabeth, so he was able to wangle his way into getting all sorts of favours and what have you. So he rose through the ranks very, very quickly.
Okay.
And that. So that is his kind of background.
Okay, so he and Grenville and these other guys you were saying are sitting around trying to figure out who can do what, and they're basically like trying to make their Ocean's 11 to go to America.
Ocean's 11, absolutely. And of course, these are not going to be criminals. Think about this. If you're going to spend your money, not taxpayers' money here, it's not like it's not accountable. This is accountable because it's your money. You're going to spend your money setting up a colony, which you hope to make money from, and it's 4,000 miles away, and you're only going to get there once a year to find out how it's going, okay? You're not going to send criminals or people you can't trust. You're going to send the best men you can lay your hands on for that job. So this is why they were not criminals. These were good, honest people who almost certainly worked for the people who were the investors to the colony.
Well, how do we explain Australia then? I mean, that's far away. Didn't they send like a lot of criminals to Australia?
Yeah, they did. They sent some of my ancestors there because they stole a loaf of bread to feed the family.
And they sent them to Australia.
And sent them to Australia. Well, they used to send them to Georgia, but you guys got fed up with the price of tea, and then we ended up sending them to Australia. And Australia is very grateful, by the way. So,
We got a lot of Australian fans out there.
Very, very grateful,
None of them seem like criminals. I just want to say that. You guys seem like upstanding citizens. I'm just going through history here. But you believe that it's different in this case. They really, I guess, because it's like the earliest exploration, they want to make sure they actually have people who can set up civilization.
Yeah, I mean, and the research, because we know the names of all the lost colonists. We know who went. We know their names. We've been able to identify some of them back in where they lived in England and who they were connected to. So it's very, very obvious that the people who were putting money into this colony were the people choosing the people who went to represent them for represent their interest perhaps, but also to play their part in this colony to make sure it succeeded. So, I want to make that very clear. These people were not criminals. These were people that were considered to be professionals, if you like. Perfect case in point. I'm sure you're aware of Ananias Dare and Eleanor Dare and their daughter Virginia Dare, firstborn American. Well, Ananias Dare was a brickmaker. So, this is a thing. It was people that they trusted. I'll come on to those guys in a minute. So anyway, the Lost Colony sails for Roanoke early in 1587. A couple of things happen. A bit of misadventure. They eat some poisonous fruit while they're in the Caribbean, and it causes a few issues. They find what they think is water, but it's not. It's actually where oil has seeped into the water.
Yikes.
And so they've been drinking that, and it talks about how they were burning their throat and their face because they washed their face in petroleum, basically. So all this misadventure goes on, so it's pretty ropey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But here's the point. They get to Roanoke, and Simon Fernando, who's in charge of getting them to Roanoke, says, I haven't got any time to get you to Chesapeake Bay, so I'm going to leave you at Roanoke where you were. Now, I know that sounds slightly a weird thing. Why did he say that? But here's the point. They knew when they sailed in 1587 that they were supposed to have left those colonists not on Roanoke, but in Chesapeake Bay.
Yes, right.
Because they knew the Native American, the military colony from 2 years earlier had now got back to England and reported that Indians are friendly in Chesapeake Bay. There's deep water anchorage. There's plenty of room. There's some nice soil for crops. It's a little bit more, better quality of life up there in terms of what's available to them to make a go of it, etc. You have to ask the question, when they set up Jamestown in 1607, did they actually take all what was told, that report, and say, well, that's where we're meant to go? If they knew that the Lost Colony was supposed to go there in 1587, that's why they went there in 1607, because it was still the best place to go. And we know that they were dumped on Roanoke Island, by the way, this is another thing that people question. You know, how did they know they were supposed to be going to Chesapeake Bay? Well, John White records, and this is in black and white in the annals. Excuse me. We passed along the coast to the bay. We were supposed to go along the bay to Chesapeake, where we intended to make our seat and fort according to the charge given us, among other directions in writing, under the hand of Sir Walter Raleigh. So, you know, Chesapeake Bay, we were intended to make our seat and fort. He's confirming that they were supposed to go to Chesapeake Bay.
But you're saying they
got dumped at Roanoke because Simon Fernando said he didn't have time to take them to Chesapeake Bay.
Convenient.
So if you think about it, there is a bit of conspiracy. Did Simon Fernando, was he acting for Spain as a bit of a spy and dumping these people on Roanoke? But I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I really am not.
And what months would that be alleged to have happened?
This happened in August 87.
Okay.
So it is quite late. You know, they did arrive quite late. There's no doubt about that. So he didn't have a lot of time to get back to England. But we know that some of the return voyages left at the end of August. So he certainly did have time to probably get to Chesapeake Bay and pick up the Gulf Stream back to England.
Okay. So back to Roanoke, though. This is where we get into the evidence of whether or not they were there and whatever.
Right.
What, outside of some of your equivalent of FOIA over in the UK, what evidence on the ground says that they stopped in Roanoke and dropped off many of these people to set up a colony?
Because it's in the writings of Hakluyt, his principal navigations. What is in there is John White's own transcript of arriving on Roanoke, finding
in 1587.
In 1587, bearing in mind he's been there 2 years previous.
Yes.
So again, he's expecting the fort. He finds the fort razed down. Remember I was saying that about he finds it razed down. He talks about them finding the houses were still there, so they repaired the houses. And they set up camp again. They get themselves organised. He talks about that. He also records the birth of his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, who becomes the firstborn American, and her birthday was 18th of August, 1587. So this is John White recording all of this. This is his deposition, if you like. This is his story.
And like you said, we have the name of every passenger.
We have the name of every passenger.
What's the mix of like men and women and children?
Well, very lopsided. There were 85 men. Now, you have to look at that and say, well, some of those were military men. Some of those would have been sailors. And then you've got the others who might have brought their families with them. Virginia Dare was not the only child. Certainly the firstborn, but not the only child. There were other children. How old they were, we don't know. They might have been anywhere between about 5 and 15.
Okay.
So there were several others. But I have the marriage record of Ananias Dare with Eleanor White. We know that they were married in London on the 24th of June, 1583. And then they sail for, to be part of that colony with Eleanor's father, John White.
And John White is at the center of the story because he's the one who, after this voyage in and around the area of arriving August 1587, he goes back to England to go get supply.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely right. We don't know much about John White either. We think he was probably Cornish. He trained as a painter in London. Okay. We know he got married to Thomasine Cooper on 30th of June, 1566. His son Thomas was christened 1567. Daughter Eleanor in 1568. His son dies the same year. So that just leaves him with a daughter. So his only surviving child, is his daughter Eleanor, who he last sees alive in 1587. And I don't know if you want this record.
Sure,
but
please.
That record is the record of the birth of Eleanor.
And what What day was she born again?
I've got it on there somewhere. Sorry, I need to.
We're going back and forth with the HDMI today. I love it.
I do apologise.
No, it's good. It's good. That way we can get it up so the people at home can follow. All right. Thanks everyone. Sorry, we were having trouble getting that up for a second. So here we go. This is the record of Eleanor being born on May 9th, 1568. Is that right?
Yep, it's the third line down there. It says the 9th day of May, christened Eleanor, the daughter of John White. And if you look at the faint writing on the right-hand side, the word painter, confirming that is the John White and that is the birth record of Eleanor.
Is this also in your church?
No, this is in the registers in London where they lived.
Okay. Wow. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.